Hey, what's up? We should be live, so thank you so much for being here. Let me know if you can hear me well. It's got a little cold here. I don't know, for some reason my feet is cold, so I put on my beanie. Of course, that makes sense. But let's see who's in the house, and thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Before we get started with the launch, it's gonna be fun. Please drop a like. It helps the stream a lot. So thank you so much if you can do that. Let me open it up on my end and see that everything looks okay. So I got it open here on my phone so that I can see your chats a little more easily. I'm just gotta mute myself on my phone. There we go. Henny, how are you doing? Let me see. I'm gonna open up the comments. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, I am. Hope everyone's doing super duper well. We're gonna have a fun one today. I want to basically launch the new Watercolor Realism course. It's kind of a low-key launch, to be honest with you, because there's going to be a real launch on my end that you aren't aware of and you shouldn't be aware of, because it's me launching it like using Facebook ads, and I'm going to push it through paid marketing, and that's going to be a completely different story, because it's going to be a part of a sales funnel in which people buy the first course, they get an offer for the next course, but for you it's just going to be a direct link. So it's a bit of a different process, low-key launch. And what I will say that connects to that is that there may be some technical issues, because I set it up, I tested the heck out of it, but there may be some issues anyway, so just you have to bear with me and forgive me if there are. So let's see, I have a weird twitch in my eye. So Nancy, how are you doing? Hey, John, hope you're doing well too, my friend. Hope everyone is doing well. I had a nice week, kind of going back, getting back on track, rebuilding the momentum. Let me check my camera settings for a second here just to make sure. Yeah, okay, we're good. I don't know why the default was 480, and then I figured that StreamYard's playing mental games with me, and I fixed it. But in any case, yeah. So let me tell you what we're going to talk about. Basically, I want to launch the course, okay, and to give you the links, and I'm going to screen share, which I never do. I'll share my screen with you and show you basically everything in it. And you feel free to ask any questions you have about realism in watercolor. And whatever I can help with, I'd be happy to help live, okay? Regardless of the content I'm showing, I think this could be like a good stage for realism, which is hard, which is something that is not easy necessarily to attain, which is why I want to answer whatever questions you have. So let's see, now we're getting started here. So I see some people in the house, and I will let you know again, if you can drop a like, it will really help the stream reach more people. And if we have time around the end, I'll give you some other news like Patreon. I've done some updates there, but that's an extra. I don't know if we'll get to that. 1 second, I got to open the door for me. 1 sec. Sorry about that. So me and Ruth is gonna jump up the stairs now, run towards me, and go crazy. Maybe I'll lower the camera angle so you can see it, because it's gonna be hilarious when it happens. Let's see here. She's gonna show up in just a second. But in the meantime, until she shows up, let me see your comments here. And I'm using StreamYard so I can show them. Hello, Henny. Hey, of course I am. Hey, Nancy again. Hey, John, once again. Hey, Christine, how are you doing? Hope you're doing super well. Thank you. I'm feeling much better, actually. Not fully recovered, but much better. James, how are you, my friend? Here she is. I hear her. Thanga, how are you? Good evening to all. Hope you're fine now. Thank you so much. Hey, Nikki, how are you doing? Here we can hear Ruth. Hey, Ciara, hello. First time watching you live. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So it's an adventurous live stream, so bear with me. Hopefully it goes smoothly. Hey, Sushma, how are you doing? Good evening from India. Indians are really committed to the live streams because it's super late, right? Hey, Jill, how are you doing? It's been a while, right? I think. Hey, Jessica, how are you doing? Hope everything is well. Hey, Tom, sup? Oh, there she is. There she is. Hello. Hello. That's the most we're gonna get out of her, I think. Hello. Yep. Okay, so we can continue. Proceed as usual. Hey, Ruthie, how are you doing? Good morning from Michigan, USA. Hey, Deep Christian, my friend, how are you doing? Hope everything is super well. Hey, Linda. Hey, Fernando. Hey, Delia, my friend, how are you doing? Hey, Abderrahim, how are you doing? I think it's the first time I see you live. I don't remember. And hi, Ambi, how are you doing? Hope everyone's super well. So if you can, again, take the moment to, yes, she's so cute. If you can take a moment and again, drop a like on this one, it will mean the world to me. So today we're talking about watercolor realism, as I mentioned. I'm gonna launch the watercolor realism course and share my screen, show you pretty much everything in it. I mean, we're not gonna watch all the lessons together. It's just silly. She's crazy now because that's just silly. But I will give you like an overview of the course's content. So if you get it, that's perfect. And if you don't, you'll have at least some kind of a roadmap that'll help you. Ruth, come on, show up. She was gonna join you. There she is. Shalom, shalom, you crazy. Okay, enough of that. Now we need to focus, Ruth. We need to focus. But yeah, so I think we can get started. Plus, I have two paintings I want to share with you that also show that idea of realism really well, I think, and show how it is. And the light's a little weird. Let me play around with that. How do I get rid of this weird thing here across the screen? Who knows? Maybe I'll make it a little weaker. But in any case, yeah, we're gonna do like the basics, the basic elements, basically, that lead to realism. So it's gonna be fun. Okay. No, let me try. This drives me crazy. Now it's worse, right? What if I flood it with light? I don't know. We'll have to deal with it. Whatever. And thank you so much for the good vibes, Abderrahim. So yeah, let's get started. I'm gonna share my screen with you. Share screen, and we're gonna do this tab so you can see everything. Okay, good. Let me know if you can't hear me or can't see me well. Just because it's the first time I share this the basically share screen, so I don't know if the audio is going to be weird or something like that. But basically, if you have the frustration-free watercolor course, it's just going to be under it. So when we're talking about realism, and again, feel free to drop your realism-related questions in the chat. I'll answer whatever I can. But basically, when we talk about realism, a lot of people are worried about how to get something to look realistic, right? When you paint. But the thing is, it's actually much easier than people think, and there is this roadmap or this method of achieving it. And it has to do with the basic fundamentals of art that lead to a realistic impression. And what I find from my experience is that it's mostly the shapes and the values. If you look at it in a very, I guess, abstract way, the shapes and values is what composes everything around us, right? There are no lines in real life, and that's a very important concept if you're trying to paint realistically. You can't see outlines around my face, right? Around my beanie, right? There is no such thing, right? The closest thing to an outline in this frame is this portrait, right? The frame of the portrait itself looks like a line, but basically there are no lines. Life is just this collection of beautiful, abstract shapes of value and color, right? If you can get that down, you have a much better chance of being able to paint realistically. Hey, Paul, how are you doing? Hope everything is super well. So this is why the way the course begins basically is with the introduction. I talk about all of these things, right? So what creates realism, right? What's the thing that's behind it in its core, and why many people struggle with it, right? Now, drawing is something I do want to talk about because a lot of people have trouble with drawing, and I'm actually of the approach, rather maybe weird approach of I'm perfectly okay with tracing. And I see people always trace, and I'm like, cool, if it gets the job done and it makes something look the way you want. And by the way, let me just scroll back up here. It's a bit weird because it's awkward because I have to. Oh yeah, I wanted to press this because I have to juggle between two screens. But the thing is, with drawing, that makes a lot of people scared. Actually, there are a lot of ways to kind of circumvent that worry that people have about drawing, and that's something that I talk about a lot because it is important, right? So there are a few basic principles that will help you to draw pretty much anything, even if you don't really know how to draw or you're not skilled enough at it, and that has to do a lot with understanding, that's the one thing that gets me, that really makes me even like triggered in a way, is that people assume that they can just wiggle the shape, wing the shapes. People assume they can just wiggle the pencil and wing the shape and get it right just by miracle. And that's usually not how it works, because even me, if I'm experienced and I painted for a while, I still have to measure and to carefully second guess myself and to make sure that things are really accurate. So even if you're experienced, you still have to put in a lot of work, actual work and focus, to get things to be drawn accurately. And the thing that beginners make is they assume they just can get it done, right? So once you smash through that and you understand that drawing does require not just skill, and if you have it, you have it, and if you don't, you don't, but actual focus, and understanding of the importance of actually trying, you know what I mean? Like actually trying to get things accurately. So a couple of the things I talk about here, again, are drawing skills important. I'm going to mute this because I don't want audio to come through here. But one big thing is to avoid symbols, right? Which is something very common that people tend to resort to. Symbols. Our brains immediately use symbols to, for example, the top two examples are what the mind thinks an eye look like, right? You have a really good kind of symbol for a sunflower, which is how, again, a kid would draw it, right? But an actual sunflower, an actual eye, an actual whatever it is you're drawing looks much different, right? It actually has a shape that you can recreate if you're just aware of it, right? But the first step is to be aware of what it looks like, which is something that I see a lot of people have trouble with, right? So if you can break through that, that's really useful. And I hope that makes sense. Let me know, and let me know if you have any questions. For now, I do want us to look at some of the comments, because it's going to be mainly chat-led stream. But hey, Tom, tracing, if was good enough for Sergeant, yeah, if it was good enough for Sergeant, obviously debatable if you want to improve your drawing, but if the drawing is the obstacle to learning, get tracing. Yeah, exactly. Now, one more thing to add to that is the grid method, which I go into more depth in the course. The grid method is like tracing on steroids, because what it does, and many of you are familiar with it, but you basically create a grid over the picture, you create that exact same grid on your paper, and then you can transfer more accurately, because you see if the paper is divided into 5 parts, or why am I talking? I can just show you in the video. So let's see here, just to give you an idea, right? So if we're talking about the grid, I'm just going to let this kind of run in the background. Maybe we'll do a full screen. Let's see if it works well. I don't know. Yeah, that's a bit confusing. Let me quit the full screen. It's just my first time, sharing my screen. So whatever. So you draw that grid on the paper and on the picture, and that way you can really measure much more carefully. So here's, for example, what the grid may look like in Photoshop. Here we go. So something like this, right, over the photo. Now, the thing that is such a powerhouse about the grid method is that you can scale up and down, and that's the biggest benefit of the grid method, because what you can do is draw a grid and then draw a grid on a much bigger piece of paper, and you can still transfer accurately by looking at where the grids again coincide, right? So you can basically make a small photo, blow it up much larger, much easier. In fact, even if you know how to draw, the grid method is useful. I use it for larger pieces because it's very hard, even with drawing experience, it's very hard to see the proportions when you're working very large, like a sheet, or maybe even half a sheet, right? So I just use the grid because it's useful, So these two methods are really, really good, and it's something that allows you, again, just like Tom said, while you're working your way through improving your skills, why not use a method that actually works and gets you results, right? I hope that makes sense. Hey, Kasapaiva, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Watching this in Finland, cool, that's amazing. I don't get a lot of viewers from Finland, I think. I remember a few, but not many. Paula Campbell, good morning from Yorktown, Virginia. Hoping you're giving info on how to access your class. Yeah, definitely. So you can find the link in the description box, but just I will say one thing. The link to the Watercolor Realism course is in the description, but here's the key thing. If you already own frustration-free watercolor, use the right link for that. You'll see if you own frustration-free watercolor, use that, and if you don't, use the other one. It's not a must, but it will help me, okay? Because I just want to make sure that people are divided into the right correspondence and mailing lists, and that's a way for me to know that. Now, just to give you an insight on how I do it as, I guess, the business owner, the way it's going to work for me on the sales side, right? So I published a course, and this course is going to be like the second offer in my sales funnel. So first, people who have never heard of me will get an ad, and they will click it. Usually, people find the ads interesting, and they are actually, I try to make them informative too. So you basically find the ad for, like, if you're frustrated or you can't let go with watercolor, and then they buy the frustration-free watercolor course, and then they get an offer for a watercolor realism course. That's how it works on my end, not for you, but for the paid marketing and the different ways I'm going to sell the course, right? And even now, when I link in the future to the frustration-free watercolor course, people will see that offer for the watercolor realism course, right? So when they're in the funnel, I know, like, to control who bought what. But now, because it's like a standalone page for you to buy from, if you already have the frustration-free watercolor course, I would be appreciative if you use the right link. It's not the end of the world if you don't, but the links are in the description box. It's the first links, right? So you can see them immediately. Already own frustration-free watercolor, use this one and the other one. There may be technical issues. It's both PayPal and credit card. So just, if there are, bear with me, because I set it up, I tested it a lot, but there may be issues. There always are unforeseen stuff, and then you have to improve. But in any case, yeah, so you can find a link there. And thank you so much, Paula, for your interest. Hey, Richard, how are you doing? Late for the party? Nah, you're pretty early. Don't worry about that. Pedro says hello from Lisbon. Cool. Richard says, how's the weather for you? Okay, that's a conversation. We'll skip that. I'll let you speak to one another. More followers from Finland. Yes, definitely. I'd be super grateful for that. Thank you so much. You know, it's crazy how things work. Sometimes people tell me they share the videos in their local Facebook groups or with people they know, and then it really helps, actually, to build a following, like local followings. It's really fun. Ciaris is watching from Philippines. Is it just my screen, or are the words from the slides really blurry? I'm not sure what you mean by the slides. Let me know. Hopefully it's not too bad. Let me see on my end. I don't know. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but if it's the actual course and the content, it's super sharp. It's just probably the streaming quality, I guess. Deep Krishan, what tip would you give to achieve a realistic impression in loose watercolor painting? That's actually a great question, and I have the perfect example for you. So let me just for a second stop sharing my screen. I'm actually really happy you asked that, because I have just the great example for that, which I just uploaded. So I shared this one on Instagram today. Some of you may have seen this. And sorry, I'll have to just make that chat disappear for a second. I basically did a lesson, and it included a plein air, like a watercolor painting lesson, plein air. And it included this scene. And this, I think, is the perfect example of a realistic impression that's very loose. And I have it right next to me. It's a very small piece. You can see it right here. And this was painted completely alla prima. Just, I did a few improvements around here to make the contrast stronger, but everything you see here pretty much was done in one go, top to bottom. Building, then the tree over it, wet and wet, then the people, then everything, right? And even if you were to ignore the reference photo, it reads really well. If you take a few steps back from the screen, it reads really well, I think. That's honestly one of my favorite things to paint. So I would say the looseness comes from the process, but the realism comes from the fundamentals. So what do I mean by that? The fact that I managed to capture some kind of a realistic impression here comes from the fundamentals. My shapes are accurate. My values are accurate. That's it for realism. Shapes and values. That's the only thing that matters. Colors can enhance, can play a role. If the values are modified, the colors can make up for it. In other words, if you're using colors, you can change the values and still maintain some sense of realism, because then you have depth to play with in terms of temperature and stuff like that. And you can make separations between shapes based on color. So you can edit it a little differently, but at the core of it, the realism does come from that, from the values and the shapes. Now, the looseness comes from the process. Are you utilizing wet and wet constantly to darken the areas that need darkening? Are you lifting to lift back highlights? That's the best advice I can give you for loose, realistic watercolors, right? Now, if you want it to be a tight, realistic watercolor, then it's all about just get the right value in the right place. You don't have to do wet and wet. You don't have to do anything, but like get the shapes very accurate and get the values very accurate. This can be done with a process that's very tedious, and then you get something that can be photorealistic, or it can be done in this kind of a process that you see right here, that is very fun and loose and free flowing. And fun is subjective. Some people enjoy the tediousness. Definitely an option for you too, if that's something you enjoy. But Deep Krishna, I hope it helps, right? I'm happy you asked that, because I really prepared this painting just for the sake of this kind of an example. You can develop looseness. Now, we will revisit it later on, and I have another one that I will also share with you later on, okay? But let's see what you're saying in the comments, and then we'll continue. Hey, Blanca, how are you doing? Tom says, damn, this course is crazy affordable. Yeah, it shouldn't be too expensive. It's funny, it's cheaper than the Patreon tier I added today. Nicholas, hi from France, enjoying this chat very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Hopefully, at least I can give you like a rundown of what's required to create realism, even if you don't get the course now, and maybe you'll get it in the future, maybe you won't, right? But at least you'll get a rundown of like the factors that I believe are important. Josephine, how are you doing? Oh, sorry, Megan, I skipped you. Hey, Liron, so excited to try the new course. Thank you so much. And I would be happy for feedback, of course. So if you're, if you have anything to say, and I'll improve it. One thing I noticed is that how hard it's going to be to get the captions in. I do want this one to have captions. It's going to be something it's not done yet. I'll have to work on it in small steps in the next couple of months, because it's super, time consuming, basically. Hey, Josephine, good morning to you too. Hey, Delia, buying the course worked seamlessly for me, and I love how it's one login. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I'm so happy to hear. Yesterday, I really tested out the purchasing using credit card and using PayPal, and it worked well. You have no idea, like the amount of technical crap I had to learn over the last couple of years just to set this up. And it's not even like programming. It's something still that is more customer facing, but there's a lot that goes into that. Like you see just the course, and it's easy to assume, okay, it's just the lessons. And let me share my screen again. It's just the lessons is the final product, right, that you see, but the actual like work behind it is so tiring, because you have to set up the products, like the whole, all the technical side of things, and then the mailing lists and the mailing follow-up, and you have to make sure everything communicates with one another, and you have the Facebook pixel, and you have so much things going on. And I'm not really that technical in my essence. I'm just competent kind of enough to get it done. But thank you so much, Delia. And I saw the notifications for the purchase, so thank you so much. Much appreciated. Hey, Paula, thank you so much for info and accessing the course. Love how you teach, and anxious to sign up. Yeah, definitely. And feel free to just chill here with the stream. I do want you to stay here, and you can get it later on, right? Daiji, hello. Got here a few minutes ago. I like that your outfit looks like your portrait on the wall behind. Yeah, it's the same beanie. People have noted that it's the case. It's funny. Elsa, Liron, you're bringing morning joy to me in La Honda, California. So happy to hear. I'm not even mad at 5 years in. I'm still happily working on fundamentals. Yeah, same here. Same here. Thank you, my friend. Excellent advice and beautiful example. Really happy to hear. Tom, Patreon tier. Yeah, so many people have asked just for the painting. Okay, so I'll get into that. And then we'll continue. Basically, the next couple of sections in the course are values, shapes, and edges. And it's really interesting. The drawing stage is, again, just basic kind of good habits and things to have to be able to draw accurately, even if you're inexperienced. Then there's the alternative drawing methods, where I go more in depth on the grid method and tracing, as you can see here. And then we're going to talk about values, shapes, and edges. For these three, I have some really, really interesting insights to share with you, and that's what we'll work on in just a second. I'll talk to you about that. But as for the Patreon tier, so basically a lot of people ask for painting critiques. The problem is I get a lot of emails, and I just never find the time to critique everyone, and I hate that. So I just created a critiques tier. It's $50 a month. You get 30 minutes video chat, video call, or just audio call, but you can show me paintings, and I'll critique as many as we can get through in about 30 minutes. Um, let's test it out and see how it works, because just I don't like this place I'm at where I'm like half pregnant in a way. It's not like a product I offer, the critiques, but people do want it, and I try and do it on a occasional basis. So if you ever sent me more than one request for critiques on your paintings, and I say more than one because that will increase the chances. If you ever sent me more than one, I probably at least answered one, right? And many of you know, you send me a painting, you get like a detailed email, right? So first off, video format will be faster, and I can give tons of critiques and specific things to work on and improve. So it's just faster. And I want to feel like it makes sense to devote the time to it. And I do enjoy it. And this was why the videos are a good idea once in a while, to do like a consolidated, I critique your paintings, right? But if you really want something that you send a bunch of them in, and we do a chat and a call, and I actually give you very detailed critique, then that's why I added this tier. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see if people are actually interested or just asking about it. But yeah, you never know, right? But I think I've gotten enough requests that it makes sense to give this kind of a service. So hopefully that will work for people. But we'll see. We'll see. Richard, just bought a course. Can't wait to get stuck in. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Tom, too. No one. Is it okay to draw, for example, a cylinder, and then the construction of the cylinder is in your head? Is that why we use constructive drawing? Is it okay to draw, for example, a cylinder, and then so do you mean if it's okay not to rely on a construction, but kind of just wing it in a way once you feel comfortable with it? If that's the question, definitely. It's something that I do all the time. I practice enough of one subject or one object, and it becomes so intuitive. Now, for example, now I can draw pretty much upper bodies really well with no reference and kind of just wing it without a lot of guidelines. Anything torso up, including the head and the face and the neck, I'm decent at. Like if it's something weird, like a weird position, I have to maybe use some reference myself just to look at my own neck. But that happens. Yes, you in practice it so much that it's just intuitive in your mind. And it's more than okay, but it takes time to get to it. It takes time to work on it. Hello, Shady. Hey, from New Zealand. Love your head. They do love your head. Thank you so much. Okay, let's continue with this. So I have marked 3 main skills that I think are crucial for realism. 1 is values, 2nd is shapes, and 3 is edges. Edges is something that doesn't get enough attention anywhere. So I really dove deep on that. We'll get to that in just a second. So first, values. So water to paint ratio, that's like the most basic thing, right? The way to control and produce any value you see. So that's pretty standard, but I do go into depth about new ways of doing things in a way that is more effective, more efficient. It's new things that I learned. Now we do have a lesson about the value scale, a closer look at the value scale, because I go into more details about the increments. So how to do, for example, this is 6 values, right? But then what happens if you have 10 increments and you want to figure out how to increase the darkness or decrease, depending on if you go light to dark or dark to light, incrementally. So let's say 10% at a time. It's not easy doing these things. It's really not easy. There is dark to light, right? And I show the exact mixing for these different approaches because they're very different. So the way you work with the puddle when you're working from light to dark or dark to light, it's just very different. The way the process itself, and I wanted to go a little more in depth about that. I think it's a really important thing. So that's that. And now we talk about fixing mistakes. This is a huge one. So I call this lesson, you can fix mistakes in watercolor. Basically what I show you in this one is how you can fix, and let me play it in the background, how you can fix like 90% of watercolor mistakes. And this is something that gives you a lot of confidence, I think. It's just such an important skill to have. When I paint a wash, I feel so confident, and you have to feel confident to paint something like this. I know that I'll get it right. I know that if I don't get a value immediately, I'll just do charging, wet and wet, add some values, right? If I have to lift, I'll lift. If I went too warm, I'll add coolness. I have so much control over the wash, and it's good. I wanted to run it to the actual demo. I know exactly how to handle all of these, and to achieve realism, the more accurate you can be, the better, right? So knowing that you can fix mistakes and knowing how to do that gives you a lot of confidence so that you actually are able to paint with the necessary confidence to achieve realistic results, right? So I showed the obvious charging and lifting. By the way, I love this share screen format. I'll probably do more of these. Let me know if you want me to do like reactions to other painting processes, myself or other people. That could be fun. But yeah. So that's the kind of thing that is very important. You can fix mistakes in watercolor. It is possible. It is an important skill to have, right? Kelvin, hi Liron, finally got some free time to join your stream. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations are in due. Kelvin won the Discord painting contest by the vote. You're the vote winner, which is a huge achievement. People loved your painting. Honestly, I look at the votes, and it was like a tight race between everyone, but you were always, you had a couple of votes more, which is really, really indicative of how much your painting resonated with people. It's a really beautiful one. And I will share all of the paintings from the Discord art contest. For most people don't know because most people aren't in the Discord, but we did an art contest, fantastic result. You won the vote, and Mr. Sunbeam won the raffle. Well, how do you call it? Like the random, what do you call this? What's the word for that? I can't believe I forgot that word. It's like such a basic one, but in any case, yeah. That's me. So yeah, so congratulations, Calvin, and thank you so much for being here in the live stream. Hey Tom, to be honest, it was more that I had no idea you had a Patreon at all. It seems very reasonable to charge for your professional time. You're very generous with it. Thank you so much. Yeah. So the story with Patreon is actually interesting, and we can dive into that for a moment. I did a video on that a while back. I opened up a Patreon a couple of years ago, and then I found myself having to force myself to produce exclusive content, like exclusive posts and videos. I don't like that. I don't like to put my content behind a paywall unless it's a course, unless it's a product that I sell. So I really wanted to. No, so tagidilik. So, okay. So I don't like the idea of putting the content behind a paywall, content like YouTube, for example, right? I'd much rather build the audience that actually have something to share with you. But if it's a course and it's a product I offer, I frame it that way, that's great. So I ended up closing the Patreon, but then people asked how they can donate. So I was like, okay, that Patreon's the best solution. I looked far and wide. I was like, okay, PayPal donations. It was such a crappy solution at the time. Maybe they improved it. All of the other methods were just bad. So I decided to reopen the Patreon. And now because people ask for the critiques, I thought it would be a good idea to make it worth my time more, and to do these on a more, I guess, regular basis, and to devote some time for it, right? And I know the price point is immediately like a block for many people, so I do apologize about that, but I just want to make it more an actual thing I can do more of. So yeah, thank you, Tom. Calvin, controlling value is more difficult in watercolor. No thanks to color shift. Yeah, definitely. So here's one of the most interesting parts of the demo. In this example, let me do this. So the shadow under the car is too dark, and it is very jarring when you look at it. It makes everything else feel like it doesn't exist, like it's detached. How do you lighten that up in watercolor? Not in acrylics, not in oils, in watercolor. You use opaque paint, and that's exactly what I want to show you here. How I use opaque paint, and it's something I barely ever show, to make a big correction, like a big area, make it lighter. And knowing you can do that, so for example, if I would make a huge mistake here, I could just fix a large area. I'm showing you exactly how I do it here, and it works. And you can learn how to improve in using opaque paint. and it's not cheating. It's diluted with water, and it's just like how watercolor dries lighter, opaque paint dries darker. It's so interesting. It's such a fascinating thing. It looks the strongest when you apply it, the strongest like white, and then it will dry. So even if you didn't catch your mistakes on time and you weren't able to lift and you weren't able to lighten using other means, you can just use opaque paint, and it works so well, you know. So that's definitely something I wanted to share with you. What is charging? It's just doing wet and wet. Usually it's for dark paint. So if you want to add dark paint, wet and wet, I call that charging, which is what you see a lot of here. This tree was, I charged it in with dark paint, wet and wet. That's pretty much it. Jeffy Jeff, would it be possible to view Calvin's winning painting? Oh, yes, I would love to do that. If you're interested, I will upload it and show it to you. In fact, let me just upload it now. Calvin, your painting is going to be popular. Let's see here. A draw. We call it a draw. Now I see it in my folders, no less. I called it a draw winner folder. So not votes. Announcing the winners. Votes. So here it is. I'll upload the lighter version. Let's see how it's going to work with the share screen. Let's see what happens if I show it. Yeah, okay. So it just shows it. So this is the one. Just beautiful, beautiful work, Calvin. Really incredible. And the way you capture, even the direction of the brush marks, actually it goes the other way around. Like this, it's so genius. So it's so smart. Beautiful scene. And you did have, and let me get rid of the this. You did have tough competition. I have to say there were a lot of really impressive paintings. But yeah, that's the painting. I can show it a bit more later on. If anyone missed it, I can definitely show it again. But the Discord contest was really fun, really a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, honestly, on my side too, which is why I've never done these things. I can be a little lazy with these things, but yeah, I definitely want to do more, for sure. Will you put more paint into watch it? Yep. Monica NJ, hello. How are you doing? Hey Jessica, hope you're doing well. Sierra says thanks. Very nice. Yes, indeed, it is beautiful. Nicholas also agrees. So yeah, so if we continue here, this is very important, right? Fixing mistakes. Now then I do a demo showing you how to paint with 3 values. Now this isn't something I haven't shown before, but it is important because this is the first time I give you that roadmap that I'm talking about. The roadmap that my goal with this course, a bit ambitious, and I don't know if it will be achieved exactly in that constellation, but what I'm trying to do is provide a solution so that you always know how to paint what you see. You never get stuck and you think to yourself, oh, what am I going to do? Like, what? I don't know what to paint, right? So I'm showing you a very clear-cut process, and I didn't make it up, but I didn't invent it, right? A lot of people talk about simplifying the values and all of that, but this specifically is something I've never seen before, to posterize and this exact process. So I think I may have invented some parts of it, but no one really invents anything anymore, right? It's all out there. So I wouldn't hurry to take credit for something I don't know if I invent. But basically, I'm showing you how I take the photo, turn it black and white, posterize it into 3 values, which means white, mid-value, dark, something I've shown before many times, and then paint it. But here's the kicker, right? There's actually a process. And if you follow that process, you will be able to achieve a realistic result. And you're going to see soon as the demo begins. Let me just skip ahead a bit. And I found like the perfect value combination. It was 3, as I suspected. This is 2, black and white. That's not detailed enough. This tells the fuller story, right? And then I proceed to paint it exactly that way. So I'm going to leave this playing in the background. These are the 3 values that I'm using. And of course, because it's not YouTube, nothing like that, you can find a lot of resources. So, and by the way, for anyone who joined now, I'm showing we're launching the Watercolor Realism course. I need to change this title just to Watercolor Courses, but we are launching the Watercolor Realism course. It has about, I believe, how many lessons? I don't even remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So about 20 lessons. It's not a super, it is long, but it's okay. So what I try to do with this course is condense. So a lot of it is scripted and narrated, very different from previous courses. so that I can cram more information into a shorter period of time. So you get something like, I guess, like a 4-hour value crammed into, I don't know how long it is. But basically, we're launching the Watercolor Realism course, a course that is meant to give you a solution to always be able to paint what you see realistically, even if you don't know how to draw. Even if you're just getting started with watercolor, it will give you that solution, and then you can work on improving those skills, right? So there are links to the Watercolor Realism course in the description box. And once again, I see, and thank you so much for your purchases. I do get the notifications on my phone. Thank you so much. One important thing, there are 2 links. One for if you already own the frustration-free watercolor course, and another if you don't. If you can use the right one, that'll be better. For me, it's not the end of the world if you don't. But it will be easier to ensure that way that you get the relevant correspondences in the future. So yeah, and it's all consolidated. So it's all going to be in the same area. If you have the frustration-free watercolor course, it's just going to be under it. So you log in the exact same way. So we have a bunch of people praising Kelvin. And hey, Brian, welcome aboard. The Ginger Ninja, another participant, says, beautiful painting, Kelvin, a worthy winner in some stiff competition indeed. Hey, Alessandro, how are you doing? Hey, Johannes, hope everything is going well. I couldn't decide between Calvin's and Tom's. Both are absolutely class. Yeah, Tom, you really came through like really close to the deadline, right? And your painting was so good, really, really good. I didn't want to expose like the votes. I kind of just had everyone send them over to me because I wanted it to be anonymous, but there were, like, again, it was a very tight race between everyone, and then at some point, Kelvin, you started getting more votes. I believe Biloxi also and Tom got a lot of votes too. It was a tight race between everyone, and then between the 3 of you. So really good job, everyone. It just goes to show you there are a lot of ways to paint just beautiful paintings. I will share all of them in a future video, so don't worry if you are not in the Discord, not in the contest. But it's just amazing because Tom, I think yours had a bit more of a realistic flair, like more loyal to the realistic colors. And then Kelvin did something a little more expressive with the colors, but still the realism was there in terms of value. So just a lot of ways to create something beautiful. That's my point. Alola says, hello, hooray, I already have your frustration-free course, and now I own realistic watercolor. I know we'll learn lots of you. Thank you so much. So I was just going to mention that under this, and you can see the process here, there are some resources, right? So you have pictures and description and a lot of like the key takeaways, and then additional resources like the original reference photo, the posterized, my sketch stage, so you can recreate it, the final result. You have the 3 values we used, and sometimes, and in some lessons, I also added, now let's run this maybe on double speed, just so that we get through some of the video. In some of the lessons, I also included links to relevant YouTube videos, because sometimes I expand upon a concept here, but then you can see it faster in the YouTube video, just in addition. So if you're interested in that, kind of for extended, I didn't show you, but in the drawing lesson, there is this kind of a thing. I show you if you want to dive deeper on gestures, on construction, on perspective. I link to all my relevant YouTube videos there too, so that you have kind of additional resources. Alessandro, so you put the value course you wanted to, yes, that's that course. I was contemplating whether it should be values, but then I decided it's not just values. I want to solve the problem of realistic painting. So how can you paint realistically? So it's not just values, it's also shapes, it's also edges, it's a lot of different concepts. That's the value course. It is the infamous value course that I talked about a long time ago. Started talking about. James, is it true that the viewer will notice the darkest values first and then move to the area of highest contrast? It is true to an extent. I think reality is a little more complex than that. So there are a lot of factors that go into focal points. So what do I mean by that? It's all contextual. If the darkest value stands out, and it doesn't have to stand out, then your eyes are attracted to it. For example, the process you see right now that I'm showing you of this painting this car, it's the darkest value, so your eyes are immediately attracted. There's nothing to look at around it, right? But what if the entire painting is very dark and you have some lighter spots, right? So for example, let's look at this little thing that I want to share with you later on. See this? So a lot of it is dark, but your eyes may be attracted to the crosswalk or to the highlights on the cars, right? So it is very contextual. Now, if you talk about area of highest contrast, that's probably more like it. So the area of highest contrast will probably be like the first thing that catches your eye. And then depending on what the painting is like, the values, their range, the colors, even if you use colors, then it will depend. Could be a darker area, could be a lighter area. It's very contextual. Paula Campbell, if you don't own the free watercolor course, are you missing on skills lesson you should master before moving to the new class? No, I don't think so. And I constructed it this way on purpose because I don't want to force people to buy an additional course just to start a course. My courses aim to solve a very specific problem. So frustration-free watercolor course is to get rid of rigidity, to paint more freely and more expressively, and to enjoy the painting process a lot, to let go, right? The watercolor realism is that. It's a tool for achieving a realistic result. It doesn't mean you'll know how to paint loosely. It doesn't mean you'll learn how to necessarily enjoy the process more even, right? But it will give you realistic results, right? So if you feel like you need to learn to let go and do all of those things, yes, frustration-free may be a good first place to visit. But if you kind of feel okay with that, and some people are just, it's not a problem. They can let go. They can paint loosely as much as they want. They have that courage kind of built into them. I never had that problem of not being able to paint loosely. Maybe just at the very beginning. If you don't have that problem, you go ahead and learn how to paint realistically. So it's really, I guess, two separate things, right? When I sell them in the funnel, and I'm going to use the Facebook ads and all of that, I will sell them in a way that is very like, okay, you learned how to let go. Would you like to also learn realistic painting? But it's different skills. I didn't want to force people to buy the previous, it's very separate, and it's done very deliberately. So yeah. Yep, you did an excellent job, Tom. Says, I thank you. Yeah, you deserve it. Paula, is there a current link to the frustration-free watercolor class? Yeah, so I don't even think I have it here, but I'll bring it in. So if you give me 1 second, I'll put that link too, because I didn't even include it in the description. And if you do want to join that first, that'll be, you can find the link on almost any of my videos, but I'll drop it into chat just in case. Watercolor file. You have no idea what goes on behind the scenes of these courses. It's such a big mess, but in a good way. So the frustration-free watercolor course, that's going to be the order page. So if you want to get that, I'm going to put it in the chat. Watercolor, it's this one. So if you want to get that first, let me know if it's clickable. I'm not even sure, but you can copy and paste it. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Yeah, definitely. Great. I do want to, again, I will make a video where I show your paintings from the contest, all of them, because they're all really good. Alessandro says, wonderful. Paula says, thank you. Johannes, very impressive monochrome painting, loose and perfect value study. Yeah, exactly. That's the goal, right? So let's do this full screen so you can see more of the details. That was my goal with this. This is a process you can follow almost like a robot, and I mean that in the best sense. You just see the values and you paint them. Now, there is more to it than just values, which is why I also include the part about edges, right? But let me jump forward a bit in the process. We'll get ready to move on to the next lesson. But you see how it takes up a shape and it looks like actual realistic impression. There are a lot of tools at your disposal. You don't have to just use values. You can use edges, and you can use shapes and composition, and you can use wet and wet. You can do all sorts of things. This is one way of doing it, which is just painting with 3 values, straight to the point, and getting a realistic result. So this pretty much concludes the values lesson. Now, I want to show you, just like it's take a quick detour back to alternative drawing methods. To a word about drawing. So then you see here the key takeaways, right? Drawing is another tool in your toolbox. Accuracy is a choice. I give you some drawing guidelines, avoiding symbols, large to small, shapes versus lines. But then look at what I have here, some drawing resources. So here you have consolidated all of my videos about drawing, talking about the main topics like gestures, which is really important, perspective, All of this is free, right? You can find these videos. I just wanted to link them to make it easier if you want like extra reading, additional materials. How to 2 steps to improve your drawings, how to construct simple cubes and boxes, cylinders, then people. That's a recent video series I did. So I just wanted to show you that, just to organize it a bit, because there's a lot of free content out there that I want you to make the most of. Shapes. Okay, that's the next topic. So we said values, shapes, and edges. So as for shapes, I did a bunch of interesting exercises here that I want to share with you. This exercise, recreate the shape, is what I called it. Let me skip ahead to the demo, turn this full screen. So this is basically an exercise where you just choose a section and you focus on drawing the shapes. This is a mindset shift from thinking in terms of lines to thinking in terms of shapes. And it will greatly help you to get that realistic feel. When I paint this kind of a thing, again, I focus on the shapes, just the shapes. No lines, no outlines, no borders, no stroke, nothing. It's just the shapes. If you can learn to see shapes and then paint them accurately, you'll get it done. So just to kind of return to the table of contents for a second, values talks about all the things I do talk about a lot, like the value scale, getting the right value, and then fixing mistakes, which is huge. But when we talk about shapes, it is more about drawing, right? But the way I approach this is super accessible. So you don't need to be good at drawing, right? You just need to know how to utilize the most basic of tools. And in this example, measuring, looking at the shapes, and that's pretty much what I show here. Now let me run this on double speed. So this is, for example, this is a relatively long lesson, about 30 minutes, but a lot of them are really condensed, 15 minutes, and I give you a full detailed process that you will see in just a few seconds. So we're basically painting the section. First, we're drawing it, of course, and then I show you how to paint, okay? Now, the values here aren't even that accurate, to be honest with you. I went way too dark, way too light. It's a big mess in a way. But it doesn't matter, because the focus here is the shapes, okay? The values is another component, but here we're talking about shapes and how you recreate that section. You can call it even draw that section. What I basically did, because I didn't really show much of it, I took this large scene and I just chose a few select areas and zoomed in on them. What this does, it's so great because it forces you to see things as abstract shapes, because we're so zoomed in that it's like, okay, what am I even looking at, right? Let me show you a more extreme example of this, right? Like, look at this thing here. What is that? That's just the power line or the street light and then the trees behind it. Super abstract, right? And it's a very important skill to have. And if you just follow that, you'll get the realistic impression. Now, I actually have 3 significant processes, and I will share some of them here with you in just a few seconds, but they're super valuable, I think, for getting the... Actually, let's move forward. I want to show you. Using shapes effectively. So this is basically a full drawing demo. The painting here, again, is secondary, but I show you how I build up the shapes in one of the most detailed ways ever. Wait a second, let me close this. Yeah, there we go. How to draw effectively, right? Even if you don't have the major skills, you will look at things like clean shapes, and it's really useful. We'll talk about that in a second. Alessandro, I think the description you put, I think in the description you put the same link, or maybe it's the same page, because I already have a frustration-free watercolor course. In the description, it's definitely the link to the realism course. I'm not sure what link you refer to, but the links are definitely to the new course. Maybe in the chat I put the frustration-free. I did put it there. But let me know. I'm not sure what you mean. Elsa Grace, it's great to have your lessons as a video topic, because the fact you have courses keeps yeah. So here's the thing. I need to start marketing myself more. Honestly, it's one of my goals for this year, to just be more on point with marketing, because I do provide a lot of free content, and I love that. I never want to feel salesy, at least not here on YouTube, right? If I do ads and stuff like that, yeah, that's a different story. But like, are you frustrated with watercolor? Here's how to to let go, enjoy the process, and paint with complete freedom and passion, right? That'll be the more kind of marketer approach to it. And I want to improve that aspect this year. It's something I'm going to work a lot on. But here on YouTube, it's super chill. I mean, I just wanted to be a fun channel to look at. So just so you know, I have courses. People have asked me to do a proper page that shows all the paid products, the books, the courses, so that you know if I want to learn that kind of a thing, which product is the best. And I do plan that's on my work plan. I'll definitely do that kind of a thing. It's great for me, and thank you so much for the people who ask for it, because it means I'll sell more, you know. So yeah, that's something that's definitely in the works, the improving the marketing. I should put more emphasis on it, because I think I could make so much more money and free up so much time to create even better content if I just push it a little more, because I barely like talk about it. I just sometimes at the end of videos. But I do have the frustration-free watercolor course. That's the main one, on how to let go and paint freely. Now, this watercolor realism course is another staple. Another one is the Draw Anything course. That's very basic, very introductory to drawing. You can find all of this in the channel, by the way, and other videos too. I link to those. I have books on Amazon. I have the Patreon, which I, again, don't talk about much. It's usually more reactive. People ask, how can I donate? I send them a link to Patreon. Now I have a new tier on Patreon, as I mentioned, where you can get your paintings critiqued. So that gives you 30 minutes a month to do a video call or audio call, and you send me the pictures, and I give you like critique exactly what to fix. And I was suggested to do this kind of for Patreon supporters, to do a live stream where people can send the paintings and I critique them. But honestly, if I'm gonna take your money for it, I'd much rather for it to be personalized, and I'm just talking to you one-on-one. I don't want it to be like a showmanship kind of a thing, right? I can do that on YouTube, and I do that on YouTube occasionally, you know, the critique videos. So I want to make a separation, a very clear separation between the paid products and the free content, and I want the free content to be as fun and free as possible. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, watching the videos. That's more than I can ask for, really. Thank you so much. Shanze. Hey, Liron, greetings from Pakistan. Could you recommend any cheap watercolor paints which work professional? Yes, White Nights by St. Petersburg. That's the cheapest, best paint I think I ever used. White Nights, like a night, day, night, because it's not night, like a night. White Nights by St. Petersburg. Honestly, it's fully professional. They're strongly saturated. Here they're cheap. It depends on where you live, right? It depends on how good the connections are with Russia, basically, because it is a Russian brand. So if you're in Eastern Europe, maybe it's going to be easier to get. I think in Pakistan you should be able to. I would imagine a situation where it is available, right? You have to check what you can find locally, but if you have access to, you know, if you can order online, stuff like that, White Nights, bar none, the cheapest, best I used so far. They're honestly, I would just use them. The problem is they keep running out of them in stores here. That I love it. So yeah, learned and improved too much after watching you. Yesterday made your son through forest painting, went out also. Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool. Feel free to send it over. I'm curious to see. Yeah, that's one of the fun videos to make for me, at least. Alessandro, in the description, there are two links. One for people who already own the frustration free, and the other for people who didn't buy. Clicking both. Yeah, okay. So, Alessandro, if you check the URL carefully, it's different. The page looked exactly the same. I should have explained this better. I should have understood that's what you meant. Basically, it's the exact same course. It's the exact same thing. The page will look the same, but the URL is different. It tells the system that if you already bought the frustration-free watercolor course and now you buy this, it puts you in a specific list of people who bought two courses. And if it's the first purchase you make, it puts you in a different. Now, I have no way of testing it out on the back end, so I need you to use a different link. That's just the limitation of the system I'm using. What this does is it makes sure I know exactly who bought both courses and who bought only one, so that I don't end up suggesting the course that you already purchased via email or something like that. You know, sometimes I send emails occasionally. I'm like, did you check out the frustration-free watercolor? I don't want to send it to someone who already got it. That's the only reason I do this. And honestly, if you use the wrong link, it's perfectly fine. But it will make it easier for both of us if you do use the right link. The page is going to look exactly the same, though. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. It's okay. It's supposed to be this way. It's expected behavior. Tawfiq. Camel is better for Pakistan and India. They're artist quality and used by all Indian professionals. So yeah, I was familiar with Camel, and I did know it's available in India. I just didn't know it's available in Pakistan. If you can get it in Pakistan, yes, that'll be perfect. Yep, for sure. White Knights by St. Petersburg. Spelling, yep, spelling is great. Yes, St. Petersburg, one word, right? That's probably a typo. Tom, I find Van Gogh as good as White Knights, but not sure how easy they are to get there. Yeah, my problem with Van Gogh, and I do, in terms of feel and look, I agree with you, Tom. My only problem is a lot of them, if I recall, aren't as light fast. That's my only worry with them. The way they handle is great. Van Gogh were my first watercolors ever. I had the Van Gogh 12 pans palette. I love it. It served me really well in practicing and improving. But then my problem with it is that light fastness. Some of them do shift a lot when they dry as well. That was my problem. James, did you say White Knights? Yes, I did. Freaking morons, my friend. How are you doing? Hey there, Liron. You're looking better this week. Yeah, thank you so much. Energy is much, much better. We already did a workout, a proper workout, so we're good. We're feeling much, much better. Thank you so much for your concern, everyone. So let's move on and maybe look at the next lesson. So we have a detailed realistic cityscape. Now, this is one of the 3 main demos of this course. Now, if you see, it's a 15-minute video, but the process itself was around an hour and a half even. So this is one example of a scripted video. I wrote a script so that I can condense and get a lot of information in a shorter video, but because some people prefer the uncut, I also have an uncut version of the entire thing, 40 minutes. That was the time it took. Yeah, 40. I thought 45 minutes, but 40 minutes. But in any case, that's like the main process. And I go into a lot of details on how to create that realistic impression with this one. Let me run it as always on double speed. This is not time-lapse, the shorter videos. It's not time-lapse, but I do cut through some parts, okay? So this is one of the processes I'm extra proud of. It shows you and explains exactly what I'm doing, and it gives some very advanced, nuanced advice that I think is really worthwhile. Just for this demo, honestly, it's worth it. Marjorie, disagree, White Knight's much better than... Yeah, I guess I'm not sure about light fastness. That's the only thing that bothers me. Christine confirms that Camel is great, so yeah, that's good. Hey, Eldon, how are you doing? Hope everything is well. Calvin Zero, Jackson Arts home brand is quite economic if you buy their 20 milliliter tube. Oh, cool. I haven't tried that. Maybe I should. Eldon says also, I think Van Gogh has fillers that make it less transparent. Yeah, I actually remember vaguely something like that. That could be the case, you know. This is why I say White Knights, I had none of that issue. No filler, transparent, strongly saturated, re-wet easily. It's just all of the advantages. Now let me skip to one of my favorite parts here. Look at how I connect the front of the car with the cast shadow, and let me run this in normal speed. Like, this is definitely my favorite part. And this is definitely my favorite part. It's just so on point, you know, which is why I love that process a lot. But I don't want us to watch the entire thing. I want us to move forward. Edges. Okay? And if you have any questions about what I teach there, whatever, just feel free to, you know. Ruth came to sit with us. So this section is honestly one of the, I think, more important ones. Let me give you like the bottom line of why I think edges are so important. First off, edges do exist in real life, and I talk about that in a few of the videos. And that's actually a very important point. Edges do exist. There are smooth transitions. If you look at a cast shadow, for example, it's a gradual transition, right? So you do have a variation in edge, which is why it's important if you want to paint realistically to paint edges. The one thing that, in addition to that, is super key is that edges are compositional means. Edges allow you to control the viewer's attention. So a softer edge will read as a softer form that the viewer can glance over, whereas a sharp edge and a sharp contrast, a sharp transition, immediately pulls the viewer's attention. So you can utilize that effect, and I show it in the video, you're going to see in a few seconds, to make the center of the painting or the focal point very sharp, and then everything around it and the peripheries smooth. And that's just such an important effect. So when you look at watercolors that truly dazzle, when you see it and you're like, that's amazing. Like I feel like I can't leave the painting I'm looking at. I just have to keep looking at it. And you keep looking in circles and looking and looking. That's a lot of the time edges at play that really make it so that you cannot move your eyes. You cannot stop looking because it looks so good, and that smooth transition balanced with sharp edges. So this is why they're so important. And watercolor is such a medium that was just, and I just talked about it in the video, you saw the text, it's meant for edges. And this is why it's very important to devote, for me it was very important to devote an entire chapter basically in the course for edges. Let's see what you're saying in the chat. Miranda says also, I love white nights. Hank says, hey Liron, keep that brush moving when thank you so much, Hank. I always appreciate your support, and yeah, I definitely keep it up. Ted to Tank is West Virginia. Cool. Hope you're doing well. Miranda again says you love white nights. Calvin says Van Gogh is student grade paint, so they bound to have some filler. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. James T. Liron, in lieu of white nights and other academic level paints, do you ever have a need or urgency for highly granulating colors such as Daniel Smith Primatex? So honestly, James, and by the way, you can see now the painting with the smooth edges. James, I'm not a big fan of the Primatech specifically. I don't like the way they handle, and they're hard to re-wet sometimes. Some of them, they're very hit or miss for me. With that said, some of them I do like. Like I had Mayan Blue Genuine. This one I liked. I had maybe one or two that I like, the rest not as much. Now, if you talk about just generally granulating colors, that would be really down to personal taste, right? And some painters use so much granulating colors that it's like a staple of their style. So I would say this: I personally don't have a need or urgency. It is something I want to explore more in the future, but generally speaking, it's not something that I need or want in my style at the moment, right? And it's really about a stylistic choice. If you enjoy that kind of a look, maybe you'll find that you want to utilize these kinds of paints. For me, no, but I do sometimes really enjoy them. So, for example, Mark Foley uses a lot of granulating paints. Andy Evenson uses a lot of granulating paints. I just saw a bunch of his paintings yesterday. I was really binging through his work. He uses a lot of granulating paints, if I'm not mistaken, because it looks granulating, which I love, right? So it really will depend on the look you're after. One thing I will say, for a painting like the water puddle that I did, our pond painting, it can be beneficial if you're trying to mimic ground texture, or you have vast areas that are open but are ground or water. It can be beneficial to have an effect like granulation, right? It is something I want to explore more, honestly, but not right now, like in terms of I don't feel like I have to, Tom, I just had too many half-filled or weirdly hard Winsor Newton or White Knights. I think you're talking about White Knights, right? Because that's what we were talking about. I never had it happen. That's interesting. Now, to be honest, I actually have also a lot of pans of White Knights. So maybe that's why I didn't experience this, because the pans maybe aren't as problematic. It could be like how long they sat in storage, of course. Sadly, none of the problems others seem with Van Gogh. But hey, since these are all cheap brands, I guess try what you. Yeah, exactly. That's it. Maybe the problem I had with Van Goghs had to do with like how they were sitting on the shelf here. Who knows, right? But yeah. Okay, we read that. James, okay, thank you for that. As a big fan of your work, that was something I was quite curious about. Oh yeah, thank you so much, James. Give it a try if you're contemplating. Maybe you'll love it. I do think a lot of it is just, and this is something I talk about a lot in the course, and I will continue hammering home this point. There are no right answers, right? There is no one right way to do things. You have to explore and find your own. That's the thing. No one has the answer for you, like what's the right or wrong way to do things, right? It's just about finding out what works best for you. Marjorie says, Grumbacher Academy used to be good watercolor. Yeah, I never used Grumbacher. I'm curious about that too. Calvin, I like granulating paint, because they are basically cheat code for creating variation, just like the paint. Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing I was wondering about. So for example, the our pond painting that I did, maybe it would benefit from having that natural variation instead of me having to do wet and wet and lifting. Who knows? That's actually a good point that I may end up revisiting and trying out. Nancy, what a great accomplishment to be launching this course. Yeah, thank you so much. I've been working on it for so long, and it's not because I'm such a diligent, hard worker. It's just that it was so hard. Honestly, it was so hard to juggle this and all the other things I've been working on. So it's more thanks to my incompetence that it took so long. I've been working on it for a year now, more than a year of conceptualization till final creation, and it's still not done as a part of the funnel. I still have a lot to do in terms of backend stuff that you shouldn't care about. Marina says, I have Grumbacher and they perform like Rembrandt to me. So Rembrandt is another brand I never used. One that I really like and isn't cheap is M. Graham, by the way. So this is pretty standard, showing you how to control the edge, but I do go into more depth in terms of distances and in terms of some better control wet and wet too. Now, we get into another exercise, and I call this one recreate the edge. Just like we painted that section, now we're recreating edges. And this is a really cool one because basically I'm showing you, let's start from the beginning. This is very useful in my opinion. Okay, enough of my face. We don't need that. You have it here already. Here, this is what I wanted to show you. So I take a few scenes and I basically zoom in on small parts of them, and we practice recreating the edge. And it's really fun because you'll see it as an abstract shape still. So that's something that is really cool. So you see all of these beautiful transitions and smooth, basically basic thumbnails where we paint what we see. And that's a really fun thing to do, and I think it will help a lot of you improve your edge control, right? Because edges are such a nuanced concept. You look at this is what am I looking at, right? Should I do it wet and wet? Should I lift? How do I even approach this thing, right? So I show you a lot of that. Marjorie says, oh, sorry, Alessandro, let's see. Okay, we stopped here. Alessandro, really loved how you organized and compact the frustration-free watercolor course. I'm sure it'll be the same with the realism. Yeah, one thing I always enjoyed and I feel like I'm pretty good at is creating a table of contents that makes sense. Even for my books, I think the way they're structured is very accessible and it just very simplified in a way. And that's really important because you want to look at the chapters and immediately know like what you're working with, right? So yeah. Thank you so much for that, my friend. Marjorie, waiting for help to come here to help with labeling pens and waiting to dry. We'll add some Grumbacher. Oh, cool. So you'll do you're building a new palette, Marjorie. Let me know. James, Liron, as I came into the presentation late, where is your course? Skillshare? No. So the course is actually on my own website, yes, and you can find the link. And Tom already answered. Thank you so much. I'm super late on the chat. My bad. But yeah, it's all there. If you are in the frustration-free watercolor course, it's the first link. If you're not, it's the second link. Eldon says, I absolutely love Daniel Smith French Ultramarine. I never get enough of seeing the way it granulates and mixes. Yeah, it's a really nice paint. Daniel Smith in general, I find to be a good balance brand. I wasn't really let down by almost any of their paints so far. Just a few, whatever, that happens. But most of them didn't let me down. What did let me down? I'm hard to let down, but yeah, because I just use the paint, and I see beyond materials now because I don't honestly I don't have time to really analyze the paints heavily. That's why I rely on you because I learned a lot from the chat and from the comments on the paint show episodes that I haven't done in a long time. But yeah, going back to this process, so you see, it's just a fun exercise in recreating the edges you see. Very beneficial. Let's jump forward maybe to this one. This is a nice one. So this is really fun. So you see me partially wetting an area. And that's a really fun way of controlling the edge. So you wet an area, and then that's where you're going to get a smooth edge. And where you didn't pre-wet, you're going to get a hard edge, right? So it's one of the older tricks in the book, but it is pretty efficient. It works quite well. So let me run this forward a bit, and you can see here again where we pre-wet, it's smooth, and it's a hard edge on the left. So just a fun lesson, I think. Now I want to show you. So there's clouds. I'm going to skip that one because I want to show you a more important demo, but I do demo 4 clouds. This is a bit of a longer one because it's 4 demos into one. But then here's what I think is the most important demo here when it comes to edges, and that refers to how to use edges as a compositional means. And I did, okay, so Vimeo added a feature where you can do chapters just like YouTube. So you can see everything here and skip to whatever part you want, and you can see it there too, right? Can you see this? So it's just a very effective way of browsing the video to find the exact thing you're looking for. So just know that's an improvement upon previous courses too. But here you see a process that's a little more on point, in my opinion. I've shared this painting over on Instagram. You can see the final result there as well. This is one of the perfect examples for how edges and also values play a very important compositional role in commanding the viewer's attention. And it's one that I'm very proud of. I made a lot of mistakes in this painting process, which is funny, and it still ended up being one of my best, in my opinion. So you never know, right? When you look at a scene, at a portrait, a person, still life, there are, again, endless solutions to the problem of how to paint this, right? It's not really a problem, but we're solving problems here when we paint. There are so many ways, an infinite amount. And there is no one right way. One of the ways that I discovered for this particular painting is what you're about to see with the hair. The hair, I painted it much lighter than the reference. You will see. And the edges there are extremely smooth, wet, soft edges. And that plays a huge role for this process, which is why I want you to see some of it as I speak. Now we will run it, let's do 0.25 speed. So yeah, so the Vimeo player is pretty good. You can change the speed. I'm going to add, again, captions. It's going to take a while, but there will be captions for this one. I wanted to do it for previous ones too. It's just a lot of work and very time consuming, but I hope to do that. But yeah, let's see what you're saying here. America, 12U. I invested in the Escoda brush line. Wow, enjoying very much. Yeah, Escodas are great. In this one in particular, I'm using the Levinson brush right now, but I will switch also to Escoda later on. Now look at this extreme wet action that looks like it's still not fully visible, but once it dries, you will see the nuance of wet in this particular painting is on point. I'm telling you, even though I made mistakes, this is the perfect example for edges as a compositional tool. Shanzi, am I the only one forget to leave the white areas unpainted, like small areas, black and white paintings, which should not be painted? That happens all the time. That happened to me a lot, and it still happens. And then I'm like, oh, I missed that. But you know, you can fix all mistakes you make. That's a big takeaway from the course. Marjorie says, putting together paints that I'm sending. It's for me, thank you so much. It's almost impossible to paint in bed flat on my back. Yeah, Marjorie, I really appreciate it. That's just amazing of you to do, and I'll definitely use everything up. So thank you so much. I actually haven't had to buy paints for a long time because of what people send me, and because I use very basic paints, blue, yellow, red. I don't need much. People and brands also sent me quite a few. I have a lot of paint here. The only paints I use are ones that I really need to change regularly. Maybe neutral tint, some French ultramarines, but most of it I use whatever people send, and I'm super grateful for that. So yeah, that I don't need to buy very often. So I really appreciate them, and I will use them for sure. Mer says, have you noticed that M-Gram has a weird smell that is not present in other watercolor brands? Funny enough, I haven't, but I did notice the Arch paper stinks sometimes, especially the blocks. M-Gram's, I didn't notice, but you're probably right, and I just haven't paid attention. Ellen Summers, are there many exercises assignments in this course? Yeah, so here's the thing, and maybe this is something I'll add in the future. I'm not too big on assignments as like, okay, this is the lesson, here's your assignment. It's more about do the thing I do with me. So for exercises, yes, there are, I believe, 2 main exercises, the ones I showed you, and maybe one more. I don't remember actually off the top of my head, but it's not so much assignments. But the good news is assignments are going to be an easy thing to add. So all I have to do really is just add here. So maybe I will add that in the future if people are interested. Let me know if that's something that you're after. And I can definitely add like something that's more structured. I know some people want that. That's not how I learn, so I don't do that naturally. But most people, I mean, everyone learns differently. So maybe it would be smart of me to be more considerate in that way. So now that you raised that idea, I can definitely consider it. And in fact, let me write it in my note. I have now a note on my Mac of live stream insights and notes. So I'm going to write it down because I do want to remember that. So the 17th of February. And I'm just going to write down for myself, first and foremost, it's going to be the look at how the mistakes I'm making right now, wet and wet. I'm still correcting this later on perfectly well. Granulating paints, because I do want to try more of that. And I have a few I haven't used enough of. And assignments. Definitely something I can, even just providing maybe a few more pictures for you to apply what you learned, painting them myself so that you can have something to refer to after you paint them yourself. That'll be a good idea. I may do that. Marjorie says, I watched and it gives me something to think about and a reason to build up strength. Yeah, honestly, I'm so happy I can help that way. That's why I do this. That's why I don't like putting the bulk of content behind a paywall. That's exactly it. I just wanted to make sure that I provide the most free content and entertainment and whatnot. So yeah, strength haven't had an strange maybe. Okay, I haven't had an odor problem with M-gram. My nose is one of a few things that that don't work or work. For me, by the way, the same. I had a lot of nose issues. You know, I had a deviated septum and everything, and that helped a bit. But my sense of smell isn't the best. It exists, but it's not the best. Frickin' morons. Hey, Liron, sorry for asking an out-of-topic query. The distance between the eyes is one eyeball width. How do you keep that distance when you rotate the head? The distance between the eyes is one eyeball, which is pretty true, I find. I agree. How do you keep this distance when you rotate the head? Okay. So my answer to that would be, and I actually have my sketchbook to show you, frickin' morons, because it's a great question. It is relevant to portrait painting. The main way to improve this ability is to improve your understanding of the three-dimensional planes of the head. And what I mean by that is this thing here. And let me make myself, I don't think I can make myself bigger. So let me just for a second turn this to solo layout, just so you can see. This right here, these faces, the planes, the 3D planes of the head. Let me show you another example. This is how you understand it. Why? Because once you understand that not only are the eyes this distance, like one eyeball, but they're also dented into the face, then you start to develop an understanding of where to place them, because the extreme angles are very strange, right? The eye is obstructed by the nose very easily. And it's not because I have a big nose, even though I do. It's because of that thing, right? Now, in very practical terms, there are ways of measuring in space. And I can show you one right now. So if you draw 3 parallel lines, and let's say these represent the top of the eye and bottom of the eye. Okay? This line here, this is the width of one eye. The way to copy that distance, this is why we have that middle line. We just go through it. And that's the same distance as this in depth. So when the head is rotated, and then we do that again, we get the other eye. One eye distance. So when the head is rotated, for example, maybe we're looking at it even in this angle, right? So let's say it's this angle. Look at what happens here. And sorry, I know this is like a crappy demo, but we'll try. One eye, double that distance, double it again, and you get one eye here, one eye socket perhaps, and another one here, right? Now, you do need to learn the shape of the eye socket and all of that. It's not an easy thing to do. Oh, nice. I found a way to do it like that. Okay. But I do want to do this way. Yeah. So while you need to learn some anatomy of the face, which is what I recommend, the structure of the eye sockets, that will be like the best way to learn it. And to understand the three-dimensional planes of the head, you can actually go to different websites that have 3D models. Like one that I really like, let me tell you the name, is called, wait, I'll find it. I'll find it because this is really cool and I never really mentioned it. So, for example, Sketchfab. So I'm gonna even find like uh, head planes. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. Okay. So I can show you. I send a link now in the chat. Head planes. You can rotate this model however you want. Freaking morons. And you will learn the different planes of the face. And that can really help you. The second thing I would say is just use reference, which I do all the time, right? So we're going to jump into the next lesson, and then I'm going to revisit some of your chats. And again, this one has an uncut version too. And then we have the final demo, which we'll jump into in just one moment. So let's see what you're saying in the chat. This is like the best. This is the demo, okay? Let's see here. We are here. Yeah, Elsa. I've never noticed any smell. I have a lot. I also have a highly acute sense of smell. Interesting. Interesting. Newton. Any new colors you discovered you really like? Manganese blue hue, cerulean blue, quinacridone rose. I rediscovered. I forgot how much I like it and find it useful. But these are the main ones, I think. Nothing other than that that really stands out, you know. Tattoo Tank. I use Kuretake and M-Gram watercolors myself, getting ready to order Winsor Newton. Is there much difference in them? Thanks for sharing. Yeah, maybe someone else can chime in or already chimed in and I missed. But my take on it, Winsor Newton, not Cotman's, I assume you refer to their main artist line. It was a hit or miss for me. Some were good, some were okay. Like I like their phthalo green for some reason. But I think they're good. I think it's a good brand. They're considered good. They have a consistent quality. I just maybe I made a mistake and got the wrong colors that I didn't like as much. But I think they should be good. I don't know much about Kuretake. M-Grams are very wet naturally because of the honey, and I think Winsor Newton aren't as wet, so maybe they'll dry harder, which is a good thing, you know, for plein air palettes and stuff like that. Ellen Summers, yeah, I don't necessarily mean step-by-step reproduction, but something that means I don't have to go out of my way to go through the entire subject composition color use every steps every time. Yeah, that's different from assignments, though. What you're referring to is the timestamps are one thing that's meant to help, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. But I get what you're saying. Like, do you use the same demo maybe and go through the same steps? I'll figure it out. I'll add something. I'll definitely add something. It's gonna be like a short-term project, like the captions. Maybe the captions are long-term. But yeah, I'll get it done. It's a good idea. Chalifer, I love to watch you paint animals in real time. Yeah, check out I have a live stream on sheep that turned out really well, I think. So yeah, I see a few people have joined. If you can, one thing I'll ask is first to drop a like. It helps the stream reach more people, and it is the stream that launches the course, so I will be super grateful. It means more sales, so really thank you for that. And talking about the course, yes, this is the stream where we launched the Watercolor Realism course. Just like the frustration-free watercolor course, it aims to solve a specific problem. How do you paint realistically? How can you develop a process that works for realistic painting? It doesn't mean you'll become the most amazing person at drawing or the most amazing, photorealism painter or whatever, right? It's a very specific set of skills that will help you produce realistic results, and then you can decide to work on those skills and improve them and do different things to improve each and every aspect of it, right? So the drawing, I have a lot of extra resources you can use for the values, for the shapes, for the edges, very important. So yeah, it aims to solve that problem of realism, right? Mainly black and white, that's the best way to do it, and then in color as well. So thank you so much to anyone who checks that out. The links are in the description box. If you bought the frustration-free watercolor course, use the first link. If you haven't, use the second. Mary says, when mixing colors, do you overthink about the most efficient way of reaching the color you want, i.e. least colors mixing? No, definitely not. I'm not good enough to do that. I just go with the flow. I mean, I start with something close, so if it looks cool, I'll use blue, and then I'll improve it with, I'll skew it more warm. If it's purple, I'll add a bit red, right? But I don't have like the most efficient way. I very much need to build it up, right? Slowly. I wish I could be more efficient with it. It's maybe something to work on for me. Eli, quick question. Do you use Saunders rough or cold press? High white or natural color? I'm about to press by it now, but I'm torn between these options. I find that the rough is too much. So I go with cold press. That's my favorite usually. It's not as bad as Arch in terms of like rough texture, but I like the cold press the most. As for high white or natural color, so I know mine isn't white. The one I used had a bit of a tint to it. I'm not sure what it would be called. Maybe it's the natural color. Sometimes I actually regretted not using the white one and using the tinted one. I wanted to get a lighter white and I just couldn't. So maybe it would be wise to test out the white. But from my experience and all the paintings you saw in the past of Saunders Waterford, it was the more tinted color, like a bit yellowy. So if you like that look, go with that. That's what I used, at least. James T. Oh, I have a good question that I'm always rather curious about. Do you paint from the top of your head or simply the imagination? Or maybe you prefer to utilize a picture or sketch? Generally speaking, I heavily rely on references. I like to find the things that I enjoy painting, which is something I talk about in the course as well, and take pictures of them around the city or whatever, right? This scene is a scene I took a picture of yesterday. So yeah, I use a lot of references. Now, as I start to work on the manga, which is something I didn't share a lot of because it isn't yet a lot to share, I am slowly learning to draw from imagination more accurately. Yes. I can draw a lot of the human body from imagination, the head for sure, like the general structure of it. But it's a long process. It's a long process, and you'll find that you'll be using reference for years. It doesn't have to be long. You can draw and paint 8 hours a day. You'll get it faster. But it takes time to internalize anatomy. I think it's very complex, and also scenes and whatnot. Farrell Cafera, hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Off topic, but are you ever planning to bring the paint show back? Yes, yes, I do. I do. I have a concrete plan for a next episode. It's just never get around to it, but I will. Generally speaking, I will be more now that I finished with the course, which was a lot of hard work. I do plan on putting more emphasis on the YouTube content. So when I say more emphasis, I mean not necessarily the videos are going to be better. They're going to be more deliberate and thought out in advance, right? So I'll have some plans for these episodes, for Painting Masters. I'll be more deliberate and organized. So yes, there will be more for sure. Miranda, may I know what do you think about Jung Hong Sung technique in portrait painting? It's amazing. I love it. I love Misulbu more. I don't know if you're familiar with Misulbu, but Jung Hong Sung is amazing, like really good for portraits too. Let me look some up. The thing I like about Misulbu is the colors feel a little bit more daring in a way. But honestly, he's insane. JHS for short, let's say. He's insanely good. He's so good. And I think he has like a YouTube membership. I'm consider joining. Hank, Liron, some less used paints in the palette will grow some mold on them. Sodium hypochlorite will kill them. But do you know if it will affect the pigment performance? Ooh, I have no idea. I never had to deal with that. Someone can chime in probably in the chat. I don't know why. I never really got mold. Even in older palettes I haven't used for a while. Maybe some yellows, but I don't really remember. I don't know. I think Tio has a really, really good video on that. Tio. Let me see if I can find it. Mold. I don't know if it's solving mold or I honestly am not sure. So you'll have to kind of check out the video and maybe it will help. And maybe you've seen it. What does it say? Okay. So this is the video. Heal on mold. I don't know if it will help. I hope it will. Freaking Marno, oh, thank you so much. We'll check the website. I've seen a lot of how to draw head videos and nobody addressed the issue. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I should at some point maybe do a more proper, even course on that, you know. Alessandro, okay, I mean, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much. Henny, hey, Liron, if you have a picture you want to paint but are stalling on getting started, how do you hype yourself up to actually do it? I'm stuck. Yeah, I just sit down and do it. Painting time is so rare, especially now that I worked on this course for such a long time, that I just go for it, honestly. I wish I had a good advice for that, you know? Schedule it. Scheduling things helps me. I just put it in the schedule and then I have to do it. But yeah, I wish I had a better advice for you. Some people have issues with that, and yeah, maybe I have it from time to time. But if you, so let me give you like a weird trick. Print out the reference photo and put it on your desk, so you'll have a reminder of you not doing it every time you walk by it. Maybe that'll help, you know. Generally speaking, also having things set up and ready to go can help. So like if you have a hard time, for example, exercising in the morning, it really helps to have your workout clothes be laid out, ready to go, right? Stuff like that can help, you know. So maybe one of these things can hit. Elsa says, it's not necessarily to have a feeling before you start, make a time commitment. Yeah, definitely. Coffee surely helps. Tom, I love Ko Byung-jun. Is that another artist or a typo? I'm not familiar. Oh, okay. There is an artist like that. Oh, nice. Very loose. Yeah, I'll check that out. I've never heard of this artist, and it's a great find. Thank you, Tom, for bringing to my attention. Tim K says bleach will destroy the paint. Okay, interesting. Thank you. Yes, I'm finding that painting from imagination alone is disastrous. So it's taking me years, and I'm still relying on sketches from references. Good to hear. Yeah, definitely. It's a common misconception. By the way, here's the process. This is one of my best paintings ever. So enjoy the show. I probably will share parts of it to tease the rest. But yeah, yeah, James, it's one of those things. It's a common misconception that people who are really, really good can draw and paint anything from imagination. And honestly, it's a very rare breed that can do that. You know, you have people like Kim Jung-gi. He can do it, but it's very few people. And it takes a long time to get to that point, to really develop that visual library to a point where you do it, you know, just by pulling things from memory. It's just so hard, right? And I think I can do a decent job on some subjects to kind of wing them, like apples, simple stuff like that, right? But for the most part, and I won't be able to invent light and shadow conditions fully, right? It will be limited, which is why we have reference. Yeah. Hey, John, how are you doing? Good morning to you too. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but sometimes you just feel like you need hype. Yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah, the hype. I never rely on it, and I never really am able to. Sometimes I don't. I feel like I don't paint out of hype. It's just like Zen, you know. But it's weird. Maybe some people paint more with hype than me. Maybe I should try it. Good advice for all. John, Liron, which red, yellow, blue do you use as primary colors for mixing? Yeah, for me it'll be. So I use a lot of French ultramarine, Parylene red, or quinacridone rose, and Indian yellow. Now, if you want to have more versatility, here's the correct primary colors to use: quinacridone rose, so that's the magenta. Phthalo blue. I heard that not red shade, but blue shade, I believe, is better. That's your cyan, and lemon yellow. That's your yellow, because it imitates the same what you'll find in printers cartridges or ink, colored ink, and it can produce the widest variety of colors. The problem with French ultramarine is that it's ultimately a little more muted than phthalo blue, so you can mix French ultramarine using phthalo blue and quinacridone rose if you're very careful, but you can't achieve phthalo blue with French ultramarine. You probably never will. You can come closer, add a bit of yellow, lemon yellow, but it's not going to be the same. So if you are able to mix more options, that's maybe a primary set you want to go for. phthalo blue, lemon yellow, quinacridone rose. Those are like the best choices I found so far. Not Indian yellow, for sure. Eli, thanks. They didn't have the high white in cold press, but I think I'll be happy. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's what I've been using. The toned is beautiful. I don't enjoy the harsh texture of Arch. Can't wait to use Saunders. Yeah, so it's a good thing you didn't go for the rough. The cold press is really there. It's better even than cold press by Arch, I think. Let's see here. Let your feelings manipulate you. Yeah, that can help actually. Funny enough, use them to your advantage. Let's see. Hey, Julio, how are you doing? James T. I'm a surgical nurse, so trained in sterilization, sodium hypochlorite. By the way, bleach would, in my opinion, be detrimental to colors. Yeah, so maybe don't use that, right? That's a great, actually. So to hear from a professional is the best, I think. Doke. You run wild sessions, and the frustration-free watercolor course helps. Yeah, that's why I did that lesson. And if you have the course, you know what we're talking about. So this is one of my favorite processes. Let me jump a little forward in time. I want to show you just how I set. Let me show you my favorite moment, actually. My favorite moment of this process is when I do wet and wet. Here. This is the best part, I think. So let me show you. Smoothen the edge. And then what we're doing is heavy wet and wet, where you have to come back with such strongly saturated paint. It's almost hard to do psychologically. And that's the thing that a lot of people have trouble with. So let me show you in just a second. But yeah, so this is, again, the Watercolor Realism course for anyone who missed. You can find a link to get it in the description box. 2 links. Choose the one that is relevant to you. Now check this out. This wet and wet, this is on point. Like, this is one of the best timings I've ever got. Funny enough, I got a similar good timing here in this more of a scene kind of a thing. But you see, there's a bit of that core shadow that's darker on the transition, and you have to get that wet and wet because it's so smooth. There's no way you'll paint it in the next layer, right? So yeah, one of my favorite parts of this one. Let me skip a little forward to show you the bottom, the chin. That's really, really one of my favorite processes. So, yeah, and that's kind of more towards the end. And then the conclusion, we can let that run, I guess, in the background as we talk. Let's keep it small. The conclusion is not just a conclusion. I learned with time to put some to pack useful advice there. So that's something I really try to do here. And all of the advice and everything, the key parts are detailed here below. So yeah. My favorite yellow was nickel azo. Yeah, nickel azo yellow is also quite useful. It's strong. It's a strong yellow, so it allows you to do some other things. Like a very light yellow won't be able to do them. I do think lemon yellow is lemony enough, and so nickel azo yellow isn't superior to lemon yellow in any way. It could be a decent replacement, but it's not. It's definitely not better if you're looking for versatility of mixes, right? But if you like the way it looks, of course, of course, go for that, right? So yeah, this is pretty much, we went through the entire, and now it's the full message, James, so I'll show it on the screen, of course. So we went through the entire thing. That's the course. If you feel like you want to master realism, that's, I think, a good starting point. Again, no one can do the work for you, right? You have to really practice everything you learn, and the course won't replace that. But seeing it done can help. So yeah, so I hope you'll give it a try. Now let me switch over here. I can stop sharing for now. If you want to see something again, just let me know and we can do that. But I wanted to show you the other painting that I had here. Just another one of these. And this shows you how you can actually achieve quite a lot of that, again, realistic impression fairly loosely. And let me try and move away from this annoying light. Maybe like this. It won't be as bad. I don't know. I cannot escape it, it seems. But that's fine. Like this. That's better. So this painting here took me, I don't know if you can guess how long. You can probably guess, but I think it was under 2 minutes for sure. It could be under a minute as well. It's just very, very fast. And it goes to show you that there are two separate axes One is realism and another is looseness versus, let's say, details, right? You can achieve a very realistic result even in a simplified form, and that's still going to be realistic. When I look at that bus, it's perfect to me. And of course, it's a small piece. It's really, you can see here, really small. That's the size of it, right? So it's a small thing I demoed to a student, real time, really quickly, plein air outside. But it does go to show you how that axis of simplicity and simplification, and you have the full course how to simplify here on YouTube, is very important. And if you enjoy that kind of a thing, it may be something you want to explore too. And you can get a lot of it done by mastering the nuances of wet and wet, of lifting, or you see all of this wet and wet here, of course, in the top part of the building, right? That's all done wet and wet, and it's completely different than the building itself. Now, I also put my interpretation on it. So for example, in the reference photo, this building is actually darker than the buildings that are up close, but I changed that. I made them darker to create a better sense of depth, right? So there is some room for interpretation. Interpretation, composition, simplification, these are all very advanced skills that you won't learn overnight, which is perfectly fine, right? What the course gives you is tools that you can learn very fast, but then I want you to take it and make it your own. And that's something that I'll repeat also in the course. Make what you learn your own. Bring it into your own style. Paint your own scenes. Find the subjects you love and paint those. That's the only way you can really grow. The moment I stopped just following tutorials, just painting other people's paintings, that's when I started to really grow. And one of the things Joseph Zbukvich said that really stuck with me, he said that he owes his uniqueness of style, and I mentioned this recently in another video. He owes his uniqueness to how he really grew in an insular way. So there weren't any books and DVDs and things to learn from, which is a great tool. It's a great way to learn and improve, but it also can stifle growth and stifle style. So you need to be very careful of influences. On the one hand, you want to gain some external influences, and you need to learn the most basic of tools, right? Which is how I always try to frame it. Here is the most basic of techniques. Now you learn how to use it in your way, in the way that works for you, right? And I think this painting, even more than other paintings that could be considered better by me, this painting shows more of my uniqueness than other works. It shows more of my natural signature than other paintings, right? This one too, same format, same kind of a thing, because it's inherently authentic. I just went with not like a set process. I went with my truest, authentic kind of being at the moment, right? So if there's any emphasis I can give you on all of this is, yes, learn from courses, from teachers, from stuff, but ultimately bring it, make it your own. Like the most satisfying thing for me is to see you solve a problem yourself and use a solution I never thought of using because it's unique to you, right? And Henny, I have to give you as a positive example there, because the you know what painting of yours I like the most, and it's so good that it has a lot of colors in it. It has it's the landscape with the trees and natural foliage, and it's a painting I wouldn't do this way because you did it in your own unique way, right? It doesn't feel like you recreated a tutorial of mine, and I don't think it's my reference photo, right? It's a reference photo you had, but it doesn't feel like you recreated my style. It feels like you completely owned it and made it your own, right? So that's what I want you to try and do. That's kind of in closing for the more explanation and tutorial part of this, I guess, live stream. So let's look at some more comments and kind of move towards wrapping this one up. Eldon says, I find phthalos frustrating to work with because they're just so strong and overpowering with the smallest edition. So while this is true, I like the freedom they provide. So unlike oils, where phthalos is a disaster because it won't get off the brush, it's going to be a nightmare. For watercolor, I actually am able to work with it quite well. I get it. You need to be very careful when you edit sometimes. But that's why I neutralize it with my red and yellow. But yeah, again, find the thing that works for you. Some people go straight for the muted blue because that's what they need. Which one was it? I forgot what it was. And Andy Evenson, for example, uses lilac to take the edge off of French ultramarine. Like you find your own way that works best for you, and it's great fun. It's part of the fun in the discovery process, our art discovery process. So definitely, if you feel like ultramarine does the job better for you, that's for sure. Light bouncing off painting of men behind you. Yeah, that's probably it, right? And it's me in that painting, and I can't get rid of it because of this silly. I have a ring light here in front of me, and I have no idea where to move it so that it doesn't happen. Honestly, I just don't know. If I aim it down, I tried it earlier and it didn't work, didn't do anything. Maybe if I aim it away, I don't know. We'll have to ignore it. It seems we'll have to just ignore that for now. So my apologies for that bouncy light. But in any case, yeah. Once I'll move, where should I? There we go. That's better. So that at least it's not on me. Elsa, I have to clean and organize my work area, prioritize lessons near the top for several months, and then do the lessons. Yeah, that makes sense. Kelvin, personally, I think it's best. The best when your painting looks realistic from far, but loose when. Yeah. So I agree with you, and that's our personal preference, right? Some people will disagree for sure, but I agree with you. I love that. I love when you look from afar, you're like, oh, that reads so well, and then from up close, nothing. Sargent did that, even though depending on the size of the painting, from up close it looked very realistic too. But yeah, I love that. I love when you are able to show the brush marks and show some extra stuff. Alessandro, great job, Liron. Thank you, and be well. Give my greetings to Ruth. Definitely will. I'll check in on her as soon as we finish the live. Hey, Laura, how are you doing? I love your work. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. You got it. Happy I can help. Thank you for the support. Marjorie, in college, one of my teachers had us go out and sketch a tree in 3 minutes, then 5, then 10, and then spend the rest of the time, the rest of time on the same. Not sure what you mean by the same, but yeah, that's a great exercise. I like that. If you force yourself to do it in less time, you are forced to find a solution you otherwise wouldn't have. That's really it. It is true. So no one forced me to do it fast, but if I were to put my this self-imposed constraint, yes, it would bring out something different. Maybe even asking yourself, how can you paint a large piece in maybe 5 minutes? Is insane. Then you start thinking, oh, so I need a big brush, right? Because I can't work fast enough with a small brush, right? So yep, these constraints create and lead to a lot of creativity for sure. Wide range of subject approaches today. Good information. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been great fun. I really enjoyed it. Let me switch over to the other painting so that I have more wiggle room. There we go. But yeah, I want to thank you so much for joining, and thank you to anyone who joined the course. I will continue pushing it. Let's try something. I'll get rid of this. Then it's going to be lower, and then we'll do that. And now it is probably worse, but never mind. Yeah, so you will see and hear more about this course in upcoming videos for sure. So don't worry if you forget or you can't or you need to wait for a payday or whatever it is. I will continue pushing this course and I may upload one of the lessons as kind of a freebie and to share the basic idea of the course itself. And yeah, it's been a year. It's been a long year and a half of working on it. Honestly, I feel relieved that I can now wrap up a few other things about it and move on and spend more time painting, more time drawing, more time sketching, maybe working more on my manga. It's been very challenging to do everything. Whenever I work on a product, no matter what it is, it's always so it takes up 50% of my time. That's just how it is. It's a huge undertaking. But I'm happy that it's finally out and it should solve real problems. You don't have to do the frustration-free watercolor course. It's 2 separate ones, right? The thing that you want to work on more is more important. Carrie says, thanks. Thank you. John says, great live stream. We're looking forward to getting your new course. Thank you so much. Marjorie, you are working on those times painting on large newsprint pads. Oh yeah, I know that was a real thing, right? That's what people used to draw on all the time, newsprint pads, and put them, like, stack them, right? James, I know you are wrapping things up, Liron. I would like to tell you how grateful I am for this live chat. I plan on checking on your course. Actually, I'm rather excited. Hope these chats continue. Yeah, definitely. I do these almost every Thursday, so be sure to tune in next week as well. Really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone who's here. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Marjorie. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna post tons of similar things here on YouTube. It's always going to be the priority for me, because I much rather actually have that communication with you than to put things behind a paywall all the time. Hey Gail, how are you doing? Nice work, late to the party, but we'll watch later. Thank you so much. And yeah, just the final kind of mental note I wanted to mention: the Patreon. A lot of people don't know I have a Patreon. Started it just because people were asking how to donate. If you do want a more kind of consistent critique session, I added a tier for that. So that gives you a 30-minute critique session. You can find a link to the Patreon, I think, in the channel, somewhere in the channel, or you just search for my name on Patreon, Liron Jankowski, you'll find it. And yeah, I will include links in future videos. But basically, if you do want, feel free to email me if you can find a link. Just if you want the more like personalized, like, here are 5 paintings I worked on. I drives me crazy. I don't know how to improve them, what I could do better. That may be the right address. So just mentioning that. Freaking morons, thank you so much. Eldon, thank you so much. Josephine, do you think it's best to do them in order, or could you jump around? If you refer to the course's lessons, generally you could jump around. It's not the end of the world. If you really want to try something out, for sure. If you want to work on edges first or something like that, yes, definitely. You can. I would just suggest make sure you don't miss any of them, right? And if drawing is a problem you encounter, you want to watch drawing, obviously, before. But yeah, you can jump around. It's very compartmentalized, like in a good way. So you can do it whichever order you want. But yeah, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining. And I will see you again on Saturday's video. And of course, next week, same time, same place, we'll do a live stream here as well. So thank you so much. I will try this year, make a commitment to myself to promote more of what I have to offer when it comes to paid products. So maybe expect that. But I also will do a lot of marketing work off YouTube, like, Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. So yeah, thank you so much. Take care. Enjoy. Have a great weekend, everyone. Paint a lot, and I will talk to you all again soon. Thank you so much, and thank you, Alan. Thank you.